Hi guys, these are the notes for September 10th. We're going to talk about chapter 1-6, which is interval notation. This might be something that's pretty new to you, so pay careful attention. Let's get started. So for interval notation, it's just another way to show your solution set. And it's written using infinity symbols to indicate a set of unbounded in a positive or negative direction. So for instance, if something said greater than, then it's going to get positive and positive and positive forever. So that would be positive infinity or greater than or equal to. And then if it's at less than, then of course it's getting negative and smaller forever. So that would be negative infinity. Practice writing those infinities. They're like a sideways 8. That's what people say. So this is what it looks like. Parentheses are used when your endpoints are not included in your solution set. So how we've talked before about this little chart here. We talked about less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and how these were open circles and how these were closed circles. These go left and these go right. All right, so there's a little bit extra you have to consider now. What you have to consider is that parentheses are used when endpoints are not included in a solution set. So that would be when you have less than or greater than. So we would use parentheses. Okay. And here's a note. Anytime you have infinity, it's always going to use a parentheses because infinity is unbounded. It goes on and on forever. There's no way to put a cap on that. So next we have brackets. These are used to indicate that an endpoint is included in a solution set. So if something is included, that would be part of that is equal to. So if you just look at this quick example, it says x is less than 2. So we already talked about how to graph it on a number line, open circle to the left. And so this is how it will look in interval notation. Interval notation has either parentheses or brackets, just depends on the problem. And it's going to have the smallest value on the left, comma, the largest value. So it could be parentheses or a bracket, so I don't want to put anything there, but it's going to be small to large. So if I'm coming from the left, it's an arrow. So an arrow going left forever and ever and ever, that's negative infinity. And the end point is at 2. So that's why I wrote negative infinity to 2. For interval notation on this second one, if you notice left to right, small to large. So on the left, we have negative 2, and notice it has a bracket because it is equal to, and then it goes on and on to the right forever, so it would go to positive infinity. Now, if you didn't want to write that plus sign in front of the infinity, that's okay. You could just write infinity instead of positive infinity. So next we're going to talk about inequality notation. Sorry, this should be interval notation. Interval notation. And another thing with interval notation that you might see sometimes is that you have 2 parts of your inequality. If I have 2 parts, then to put them together would be using this U symbol. That's called a union, U for union. The union of y is less than -1. So here's y is less than -1. Or y is greater than 1, we see it on the number line, it'd be written this way. This would be negative infinity to -1, and then this would be 1 to infinity, and you can just kind of imagine it like this. If it helps you, you can definitely write on that number line to help you. U closes that gap up for us. It lets us know that there is a gap. All right, so for our example, what we're going to do is write this inequality using interval notation, and we're going to graph it on a number line. Let's see how that works. So right now, this is in a notation called set notation. But all you need to realize is that we're talking about all values of a. This straight line here, it just means such that. You can mainly just focus on what's inside this part here. So a is less than or equal to -3. Let's go ahead and draw our number line. So I'm going to have -3 on that number line. I have to remember, do I use open circle or closed circle? Well, this one's going to be a closed circle. All right, so where was that? So we did a closed circle for this because it was equal to. Then we have to decide which way to shade, left or right. Less than or equal to would be to the left. So I'm going to shade this way. And it continues forever in that direction. So what you can do, if it helps you, you can mark your number line with -infinity and +infinity. But really all we're looking at is what's in our shaded area. So our graph starts at this left arrow, which would be -infinity. And infinities always have parentheses. And it stops at -3. And remember, if it's shaded in, that would be a bracket. So that's how I would write that. Let's try another one. We're going to write this inequality on number line again. So again, all you really need to focus on is what's inside the curly brackets. This notation is called set notation. We'll get more into detail about that a little later. So let's go ahead and put it on the number line first. Number line. So I have -9 on here. Think about where that might be on a number line. And then 1 would be bigger, so I'm going to put it on the right. So let's just look at it one piece at a time. So b is less than or equal to -9. So at -9, I need a closed circle. And less than or equal to would be to the left. To the left, to the left. Y'all even know that song by Beyonce? Anyways. All right, and let's look at this part. B is greater than 1. Greater than would be an open circle to the right. So what might be handy for you is to go ahead and mark that number line with -infinity and +infinity, and let's see what we can do. So coming from the left, I have an arrow. It's getting smaller forever. So that'd be -infinity all the way up to -9. -infinity always has parentheses, and then this is equal to, so we'll have a bracket. The gap is symbolized with union, and then I'm going to start with this open circle, so that would be a parentheses from 1 to infinity. How y'all feel about that? Let me know in the comments down below. Just kidding, I don't have that yet. We'll work on it. All right, let's look at this example. I'm noticing it's a little bit blurry, but we'll try to get through that. So we have it on a number online already. What we're trying to figure out is how do I write this in interval notation? So if you notice, it goes from one point to another point, and both of the points are filled in. So if you want to put -infinity and +infinity just for habit, you can, but this graph doesn't continue that far. It just goes from -5 to +5. So let's see how that would be. On interval notation, I would put -5 to +5, and then I have to notice if my endpoints are filled or if they're open or closed. So this one's closed, and this one's also closed. So that would be it. No union because there's no break or gaps. And then let's look at this one here, which it will be our last example today. We're going to write the solution set in inequality notation and graph it on a number line. So we're doing something a little bit different from what we've done. So let's just look at it in pieces. We might want to graph it first. Let's look at our number line and go ahead and put the negative and positive infinity. That's just going to help me to kind of realize what's going on here. From -infinity to 5. So I'm going to put a 5 on my number line. And I'm going to say, going this way is negative infinity all the way up to 5. And that 5 has a bracket on it, so that's going to be a closed circle. So that piece of my graph looks like this. Okay, and then there's a union, so there's a bit of space there, and I'm going to put 25. Notice it has a parenthesis, so that would be open circle, and it's going to infinity, so to the right. So it also asks us to write this in inequality notation. So we're going to write it in the opposite way of what we've been practicing now. So let's just say, it doesn't tell us a variable, so we'll just say x. X is, let's look at this 5. Is it greater than 5? Is it less than 5? Greater than or equal to 5, or less than or equal to 5? So it's less than or equal to 5. And I know that because it's a filled in circle. Or we could say x is, let's look at this 25. It's an open circle and it's going to the right. So that's greater than 25. That's it. I hope everything went well for you, and I'll see you in class. Thanks.